behave.
Do you have a quorum?
We do. We now have a quorum. We still have 3 committee members we're waiting on, but we actually can get started.
Laura, Laura, just so you know, I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to let John Shea go through the presentation or whatever questions you have.
Okay.
I won't answer as much as you want me to, but I think that he has the figures in front of him. We made up a sheet today between he and I, so I think some of the questions that you may ask, but I figured that John will walk us through it. But I'm certainly here if anybody has a question for me directly.
Okay, great.
But I'll mute myself because it makes it easier, I think, on everybody.
Okay, perfect. We'll yell to you if we need you. Okay, it's 6:31. Like I said, mentioned, we have a couple committee members still joining, but we do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and move forward. So I'll go ahead and open the meeting of the I couldn't remember the date, sorry, June 18th, 2020 meeting of the East Bridgewater Finance Committee. And just as a reminder to folks, we are still currently meeting via GoToMeeting online. The recording is live and will be rebroadcast on EBCAM as well. Hopefully we'll be able to get back to our in-person schedule shortly. So tonight, I apologize, I did send a late agenda. It was on our original meeting posting, but tonight we basically have invited Superintendent Legault and John Shea to join us. So we'll be talking with them first just to get some updates, two separate updates, but on similar topics, obviously. We want to get an update on the closing out FY20 year-end budget, and then talk a little bit about FY21 and the chaos that will ensue with FY21. So that'll be our first agenda item. We'll then have a very short conversation about town meeting prep, logistics, that type of thing about the meeting and what tasks we need to do as a committee. And then we'll just simply, we have a couple sets of minutes to approve, so we'll do that. So thank you very much, John and Liz, for joining us tonight. Sorry, John, we had to pull you in off the, the fun part of the evening. But hey, where would you rather be? So basically what we as a committee, so I know you guys have been meeting with Brian a little bit and having some discussions. Brian, of course, relays that information back to us, but I think as a committee, we wanted to kind of just get a sense from you, kind of if you could run through where we are. Let's start with where we are FY20 and kind of do a little bit of a run through and then thought process around kind of the plans for that remaining part of the funds for FY20. So John, if you wouldn't mind doing that, or,
Sure.
or would you rather we approach it a different way?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Can you hear me all right? I'm on a laptop.
Yep, fine.
Okay. Well, as of 9 a.m. this morning, we had a balance in our budget on the non-salary side of $106,318. Now that balance does not include any adjustments that will be made for Fox Transportation. So I'm estimating that our Fox Transportation expenses will decrease by about $50,000. So that'll add $50,000 to our balance of $106,000. We still have 2 vendors that we're struggling with. One of them is our phone vendor. During the year, well, let's go back. Originally, at the beginning of the year and for the last couple of years, the schools and the town had the same vendor for a telephone system. The town removed this vendor and went with a new vendor. So we have been struggling to get invoices from this vendor. So my estimates right now are that we owe them about $25,000 through the year. So that's one vendor. Another vendor we have is Kenmark, which is our copier leases and maintenance agreement. They are updating their, our maintenance agreements are per copy. So obviously we haven't had school, so our copies should go down. So we're working with our Kenmark vendor to give us updates and try to close out the year. So if you take our current balance of 106,000 and add about 50,000 for Fox Transportation, which is our sped transportation provider, at about 5,000, I'm thinking 5,000 for Kenmark. You back out what I think we still owe Windstream. We're looking at it having a balance of, in the non-salary side of things, of about 130,000. On the salary side of things, we'd have a balance as of 9 a.m. pre-golf of 2.9 million. We have remaining payroll of about 2.8 million. We are transferring about 49,000 out of our preschool account due to the fact that we still had to pay teachers, but we refunded tuitions. And then at the end of the year, we are going to, due to the fact that our CBA agreement with the teachers has not been resolved, we are going to encumber some funds in case of any retroactive payments for the year. My estimate, our balance in the salary account is $63. So overall, we're looking at a balance right now of unspent funds of about $130,000. Now we have been talking to Brian about this. Desi, we've been on weekly calls with Desi and weekly calls with superintendents and weekly calls with business administrators. Desi has advised us to use those funds to prepay expenses for next year due to the unknown revenue, possible revenue decreases and possible additional costs in COVID-related items. So that is our plan for that balance.
Okay, John, what was the balance in salary? Was it just simply going to be the $63? Is that what you said?
We're right at about $63.
Okay, and that's because you're going to encumber some additional funds for the retro?
Encumbering some additional funds from retro for retro pay and also transferring some preschool salary.
Yep, okay.
Preschool teacher salary.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So really you're looking at, 130,063.
Yeah, we've got about 130,000 as of right now, or
Okay.
as of 9 a.m. this morning.
Okay. Can you give us a little insight as to what types of expenses you might be thinking about prepaying and what kind of savings you would be hopefully getting?
Yes, so every year, each school prepares an item list of opening supplies. So we would be looking to, or I've asked, or the superintendent has asked all the schools to forward those lists to me. And we have been coordinating all those requests for items. So that would be one of the things we would be looking to prepay. And also, if there's remaining funds, looking to prepay our social studies curriculum, our new curriculum in social studies.
Okay.
If I may, that curriculum site, we are in a curriculum cycle. The social studies curriculum that has come out is from the frameworks of the Commonwealth. So we're picking up where the Commonwealth, we're taking on the Commonwealth's frameworks.
Okay.
And they were in our curriculum cycle this year, social studies, health and wellness, because the PE and health and wellness standards were not out prior to September 2019. They came out in November, and so now we're going to pick them up in this curriculum cycle. So we hope to pay that ahead as well.
Okay. Are there any tuitions that we'd be able to prepay, or are you planning on prepaying?
John,
Yeah, every year we prepay tuitions. This year, and we do that with circuit breaker.
Mm-hmm.
So every year we prepay tuitions. I have in the budget prepaying tuitions of $300,000. And that's a concept. That's done every year.
Okay.
It's a little, we're struggling a little bit this year because of summer programs. In order to prepay, we would need the bills from the North River Collaboratives, Pilgrim Area Collaboratives for the summer programs. But, you know, a lot of those schools are still trying to figure out what they're going to do this summer.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I know we'll get to it a little bit in the later discussion, but when you're talking opening supplies, you're just talking normal opening supplies. We're certainly not getting into the unknowns of then what on top of COVID and all of that. This is just your normal paper.
Yeah, normal opening supplies.
Okay. All right. And so those two line items should pretty much take up the 130.
It should, yes.
I would think so. Okay. All right. Okay. Any questions from the committee on anything year-end related? FY20 year-end. I know there's still some other transportation costs that we know are being dealt with. That we're not.
Yeah, you bring up transportation. We have outstanding balance. An outstanding balance with Lucini of about $273,000. That's I don't want to say it's not in our budget, but that's a separate line item in the budget. Yep. So we are still in negotiations with them.
Yeah.
So that I would assume that would all go back to free cash. Any settlement we come up with Lucini.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we're looking. Other bus companies have settled for 30%. So that $273,000 and 70% would be a good chunk of money going back to the general fund or free cash.
Okay. So we could potentially be thinking about that as a rough estimate for a settlement, but not until pen's on paper.
Not until pen's on paper.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So any questions from the committee on any specific FY20 line items, expenses, funds?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
As far as the prepayments, just on like the accounting of it, are those going to be like prepayment with like encumbrances so that they'd hit the FY20 budget? Or are they going to be prepayment, the expense would still hit FY21? It would just be the cash is spent in 20. So I was just thinking on the accounting side.
Yeah, they would be encumbrances, so they would hit FY20. Unless, of course, we pay them before June 30th, and they would be expenses.
Right.
On the contract with Lucini, is there an estimated time when you think that might be tied up?
Your guess is as good as mine. We are working with him almost on a daily basis, trying to get that resolved.
Dan, we also Bridgewater, Rainham, Easton, and West Bridgewater asked me to be the lead negotiator with John and I to be the lead negotiator with Lucini, because it's easier to have four school districts, one company. He came in, I think it was a Tuesday afternoon, about 3 o'clock. John and I met with him for about 2.5 hours. Brought his accountant in. At the beginning, he wouldn't move at all. I made one telephone call and I said, deal's off. We're not moving anymore. He was at 72%. He went to 62%. He's now down to 52%. The other districts are not going to even talk to him until he gets under the 50%.
Okay.
I let him know that. He's upset with that. He wants to pull his buses out. He's going to sell them. He's going to sell them out of state. And he's leaving us. And I told him, I said, Bill, we have a good relationship, you and I. I don't want to see this happen. His mother still lives here. West Bridgewater's his home. I said, come on, take a deep breath. We'll get through this. He has taken a PPE loan. He does not want to use it. He took a line of credit for about I think, John, 1.2 or 2.2 million, just to get him through, but he doesn't want to take that. He took a line of credit from his bank that he tells us that he's been paying his drivers. We've asked to see that. He gave us some of his some of his expenses, but not all of them. John has taken some of his expenses out. So, you know, he's a local company, but unfortunately, the law is not with him. It's with us at this
Right.
time. And I'm sure that the treasurer of the town doesn't want to pay it, but we have been asked by DESI to try to mediate something and to work with them so that we don't lose our contractors when it comes to busing. Brian has been with us, not in negotiations. However, every time I've met with Lucini, I have called Brian and just let him know, here we are, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing. And Brian is with us. We're not going to pay a full amount. So,
We have Plan B for the fall.
yeah, I wish
Yeah.
I had a crystal ball. He knows, John and I did tell him though the other day, I think in no uncertain terms, look, you're coming up on June 30th, Bill. Make a deal, because it goes past June 30th. The town's going to push that money over to free cash. You're going to have to come back to a special town meeting, even if the town administrator and the selectmen allow you to go to a special town meeting. So it's going to be tough for you. He goes, well, you owe me money. I said, but Bill, we don't. So you're going to take a chance and a gamble on this, going to a special town meeting. So be prepared. I think that hit him. His accountant stopped the meeting at that point and came out with John and asked John exactly what he was looking for, what the other town business administrators were looking for. John gave her a write-up. She's given something back. Now John was backing, I think, John, you were backing some more stuff out from Easton, Bridgewater, Rainham, and WB business administrators that talked to John. So we're trying. I'm trying to get it done by June 30th. That would be the goal. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on FY20? No, everybody's good. Melanie, you good with the accounting stuff? Yep, excellent. Okay, good. All right, now we get to move into the chaos year. If we thought beginning of 20 was rough, I think going into the second half of 20 may be rougher. So obviously we don't know what we don't know. So again, we're kind of prepping for what may be coming down the line. So I think we want to kind of, I know you guys are thinking about it as much as everybody else is thinking about it. So we want to have a little sense in here. Again, we don't know what we don't know, so it's all speculative at this point. But I think we as a committee want to hear your thoughts about, what we're all hearing for the budget cut numbers and what, your thoughts around a plan would be. And then also, as part of going back in the fall, understanding that the chaos of COVID and what I can't even imagine what it's going to take and what it's going to look like. And I know you don't know yet either. So there's, again, a lot of speculation, but kind of some just general high level thoughts around the fall and around FY21 and what it's potentially going to look like for the school.
So before John speaks, I'll let you know that the commissioner has called a confidential meeting tomorrow for 9:30 a.m. I'm sure that Brian probably got something for the town administration. It looks like that the governor will be releasing some information at noontime tomorrow, but we'll get a preliminary protocols and guidelines of the strictest guidelines from the commissioner's office tomorrow on opening September. 5 years ago, we reorganized, reshaped, redid the contract for the Teachers Association. If I didn't do that, along with Dr. Williams at the time, we wouldn't be where we are today. I feel confident enough that we can, especially if this negotiations goes well, we'll be able to continue with our staffing and continue to move forward. Brian and I have had conversations of what does that look like in FY21 going into 22. We're not hiring anybody. We're replacing positions that were retired. We are hiring an extra adjustment counselor through the COVID money that comes through the SR grant from the federal Department of Education to help for social emotional issues with our children. And that's probably the only additional person that I'm bringing on this year. And it's only going to be a 1-year position. And that's the only position at this time. I feel confident with what we did with our salary scale, with all the other units, that we're going to be okay. However, the other units come up next year, so I'm trying to get the Teachers Association. I did make a telephone call to the union president, and I told him it is of the utmost urgency that you call a quorum and get this pushed through, because there's no more to go. This is it. This is the final offer. Let's get it done so that we can move ahead. He gave me no indication. He's given our attorneys no indication. We did have one movement the other day about Dr. Williams and I wanted new evaluation language. We believe we've got that evaluation language. They've got to get a quorum and they've got to take this vote. I'm hoping it's by June 30th, because if we don't, all bets are off. Now we go to fact finding, and they'll shoot themselves in the foot, and we'll go 0, 0, 0 for the next 3 years. And there'll be no movement. There will be no lane changes. There will be no stepping up. Where you are today is where you'll end up 3 years from now. So be smart. And that's what I did tell Kurt Shippey. I said, be smart about this and move on. We had a custodial position right now. We have 2 custodial positions. We have one person out on FMLA that's taking care of his grandson. We have another person that's retiring at the end of June 30th. John and I have decided not to fill that position. That would make us 80 hours. I think it's a week, right, John, down. However, we think that we can at least get to mid-July or August 1st before we have to bring that person back, because I'm waiting to see how long this person is out on FMLA taking care of his grandson. So that's one of those things. If we can prepay, if everybody allows us, I think that Mr. Noble's been very upfront with us and trying to help us prepay. If we can prepay curriculum, if we can pay some of the special education through the circuit breaker, if we can prepay some of the issues or some of the things that we have going on, also using some of the grant money from Plymouth County to buy our teachers laptops, our students Chromebooks, so that if we do a hybrid model and they have to stay home, I think we're going to be in good shape. I do not see us, and then I'm going to let John speak. I don't see us being an anchor or a cement bag to the town. I certainly think that we have been disciplined. We're going to continue to be disciplined. Mr. Shea did have a contract. He was the only one of my administrators to have a negotiated contract this year. John Shea had to wait. He was the lowest paid business administrator in Plymouth County.
Well, we want to be known for something.
And he's still underpaid. However, John, as you know, came out as the CFO out of a hospital, came out of the private sector, and he had to gain his credits and his hours from DESE. We certified his hours last year. He went before the board, and I think it's October. I just received a certificate. Once he received a certificate, we renegotiated his contract. He's the only renegotiated administrative contract this year. Everybody else is solid. Everybody else is staying. So to FinCom, I feel very confident that we will not be a drag on the town. And I'll give it up to Mr. Shea.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I know I sit in on the Business Administrator Lighthouse group meetings, and the towns around us are estimating anywhere from 2.5% decrease in revenue to 19. I mean, it's really difficult to manage to something that is an unknown right now. Mm-hmm. Like Liz said, I think we're in good shape. I think our contracts are solid. Hopefully the teachers sign. We can prepay some of these expenses. That should help us out next year. Obviously, the Plymouth County grant is going to be a benefit to us for some of the technology, but also to cover a lot of the COVID-related expenses. Liz mentioned a grant that, in addition to the Plymouth County grant, there's the ESSER grant, which is an additional $150,000 to us next year. That will also help cover a lot of any COVID, well, hopefully cover all of our COVID expenses we need next year. But there's a lot of unknown. The unknown is the revenue cut, and the other unknown is what do we need to open. So I think we're in good shape. We're in a little bit of a holding pattern right now. But you know, we have always been fiscally responsible, and I think that's going to benefit us in during this time. And I think the town's in good shape regarding some of the reserves we have. I mean, if you look at some of the towns out there that are having layoffs right now, and you take a look at what they have in town reserves, you probably can see why they're having layoffs, because their reserves are not nearly half as much as what we have in reserves.
Mhm.
So I think hopefully we're in good shape. Hopefully the town's in good shape, and we're going to continue to be fiscally responsible. And once we get some concrete numbers, we'll start hammering out the plans.
Yeah, I agree. I think if the world was going to stay if the world was in a little bit of a perfect state, I think you're right. I think we as a town, you know, are in good shape. I think to your point, we don't know what we know. I think we're hearing some numbers that are starting to sound a little bit more solid, you know, and again, Brian has been estimating and kind of we're working on a 10% thought process, but that could definitely go up closer to 15, 16%. And I think that's, you know, the reality I suspect is going to be somewhere maybe in the middle, you know, God willing, it's lower, you know, and we're only having to look at small decreases. But I think we need to be actively and proactively as much as we can thinking about the scenarios, if it's a 5%, a 10%, a 15%. So I think definitely we need to be thinking about that and then coming up with the plans and coming up with the plans, obviously, for all departments across the board, including schools, of if we have those cuts, what will our scenarios look like and what will our plans be? So I think, you know, Brian, we've had a little discussion, you know, about some thought processes, you know, across the board from a town department perspective, and curious to see if you as a school department have started your conversations about what does it look like if it's 5%? What does it look like if it's 10%? What does it look like if it's 15%? You know, understanding we have a lot of unknowns here, but, you know, in contracts aside, I think we need to be looking at it, you know, holistically, probably sooner rather than later. I don't think we're in a position to wait until the final pen hits paper. Hopefully, I'd like to hear if we've got some thought process around that now.
Well, we are looking at expenses. We are, like Liz said, we are holding off on some hirings until later in the year. We also one thing that we do have is some pretty good balances in our revolving funds, which we could definitely use. I mean, we're a lean school. I mean, our PPE is low. That's per pupil expense is low. Our class size, you know, if we cut teachers, our class size right now is at 25. We're a little higher. We're probably mid-range of the towns in the state for class size. I mean, if we start cutting teachers, our class size is going to go up. And then you've got COVID saying you can only have 10 kids in a class. So we're kind of in between a rock and a hard place regarding salaries. Salaries are 70% of our expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been working with Brian. We've been talking about some scenarios. Like Liz said, we've been holding back on some positions being filled, but you know we're still waiting to see where we're going to be at, and what the town can fund with its reserves, what we would have to fund with our reserves.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right.
And
Yeah,
Laura, just to confirm here, the cooperation and communication with Liz has been fantastic. And while we may not always agree, we certainly do have an understanding between us about where we're going, and that this will be a discussion as we go forward. And truthfully, and following your lead, this is not a dictation, this is a discussion.
absolutely. And some of the discussions that we've been having with on the town side, and then the committee's been having also, is, you know, we definitely want to approach this. This is going to be, you know, not that we've had a couple cakewalk years by any means, because it seems like it's always something. But I think this is going to be our, you know, I keep saying this, our challenging year, you know, but every year has been a challenging year. But I think we're going into a really, really, really tough time. And I think given we have a very active FinCom, and I think we want to really make a huge effort here to be having these collaborative discussions, and you know, whether that means we try to create some different meeting opportunities, you know, over the summer as things start to play out a little bit. I think that's something that I think the FinComs definitely, or, you know, a few of us or whatever, would absolutely be interested in doing, because I think we want this to, you know, the whole town's in this, and we all get it, and there's a lot of unknowns, and we're all feeling it. You know, most of us have kids in the system, and, you know, we're feeling it every day too. But I think, you know, once we start to get some clarity, I think if we can come up with some collaborative meetings, whiteboard sessions, however we want to do it, whether it be with the committee in the school, we want to add a couple of the department heads, whatever. I think that's how I personally, and I'll give opportunity to the rest of the committee to comment, but I would like to personally see us take that approach where we are kind of like really working together on this.
Yeah, and I think I can speak for Crystal and I, because we've talked about this, that this is, you know, we want to be involved, and obviously want you guys, I think you do know that you can, you know, reach out to us anytime, email us, call, and that we want to be an active part of this. Crystal's got 2 kids in the school and 1 entering pre-K. I have 1 going into pre-K, and so we want to be an active part of this and work together with you guys. I think every time we've met, it's always gone really well. So.
Yes.
And I just got one out, yay. Thank God. Yeah, I mean, you know, and this COVID, this whole COVID process, I think, has given us, you know, it's new to everybody. The process, what you can do, what you can't do, what you should do, how do I want to say play the game, because that's not the right term, but how you kind of work this, I think, again, needs to be a little bit of a joint effort too, because I think, you know, more minds working on it. You know, the bigger the thought process, the more positive the outcomes, I think, will be. So I think, again, we've got an active FinCom that's willing to work collaboratively with everybody on this, and I think it could be, you know, a really good thing. So that would be kind of my
Liz
thoughts.
has started a task force that, do you want to talk about that, Liz? Maybe invite them?
Raising my hand,
She's
John.
raising her hand.
Hey, listen, John, education, raise your hand. Yeah, John knows this. We started, I was lucky enough for Brian to ask me to be on the task force for the town and opening that up. So we sort of got a feel for each other. The fire chief, the police chief, Mr. Spagone, Rebecca has been in all the meetings. I can't say enough about the health department. That she's just been terrific working with us. And we started our task force yesterday for opening ESY, which is our extended school year services, which is our neediest population. We have been given the go-ahead. I will write a letter. We're going to need a waiver letter from the health department. Mr. Noble and myself will be saying, yes, we want to run this. We need to see these kids. We need to have face-to-face contact. They need to see us. These are our neediest population at this time. They need us. Our OT, our PT, they'll stay home, and our speech. But the kids that need to come want to come. North River Collaborative has already reached out to myself and said, we need that room. We need to bring our collaborative back. So they'll have, you know, teachers and nurses in that room over the summer. I think this is a good trial period for us to get kids back, to see where we're at and see what our limitations are, what we do well, what we don't do well, and how to improve on those. John and I certainly want to better communicate with FinCom. We want to communicate with, I think we've done we're having a really good relationship with Brian so far. Melanie and Crystal have been great. They've always come down as the liaisons, come down and met with John and I. They've even had lunch with us a few times. And we have good conversation. And I think they understand what we're trying to do. We certainly want a relationship with you. The task force moving forward, and I know, Laura, this is where I'm going, is the task force moving forward to get us into September will begin mid-July. Now, tomorrow, having the commissioner, I mean, I literally pulled in my driveway and I got an email that said highly confidential meeting tomorrow morning, 9:30. This is how they're working right now. Brian will tell you, I'm sure that the governor does that as well.
Mhm.
It's almost just like a stop, it's a go, it's a go, it's a stop. We've had a lot of local decisions being made. I hope that tomorrow he gives us some clarity. I think he'll start all the way on the pendulum, all the way at one end. East Bridgewater has a very good chance of getting back to school in the fall because of the pattern and the data that has been collected by the health department. We haven't had any children in the district, and we haven't had any teachers or staffing that I know about at this point. And we've written a letter to the union or to all of our teachers, the teacher assistants, being said, if you have a health compromise, if you're compromised in health, let me know. We will certainly fill that position, and you'll still have a position at home, being able to hybrid model in. So the unknowns are there, but I think that we're doing a good job. We're probably not going to run Little Vikings, but we're definitely going to run our before and after care.
Yep.
And we're only going to start with 30 children.
Yep.
Starting with 30 children and staffing for all. And we've got PPE material. We've got the face mask. Actually, I met with Brian Kiley today. We bought decals. We bought more. We've got, John, 5,000 face masks right now.
Yeah, about 5,000.
5,000. So we've been bringing them in, but we got guidance yesterday that says a pre-K 1-2 up to grade 4 will not wear it. They don't need to wear face masks.
Good.
Our teachers, though, we are
That's
buying
good.
shields. We're buying the shields so that kids can see their mouths and that they're not, we need to pronunciate. Kids need to hear us clearly, and we also don't want to scare anybody. So just so you know, our summer programs are going to be up and running by July 6th. Cross my fingers, knock on wood, and we'll go from there. But I like our relationships thus far, but that's what I can tell you from the superintendent's point. John may have more information on finance, but if anybody has any questions for the education part.
I had a quick question. Tuesday night's school committee meeting, there was a MASC resolution that was referenced tied to COVID-19 expenses, which I went on their website and I read it. Just wanted to understand from the school's perspective, from a high level, it seemed that the resolution was appealing at the state level, saying that, the schools need to have adequate funding to re-enter in September. In the meeting on Tuesday, from the town's perspective and from the finance committee's perspective, I wanted to understand, what are you looking from us so that we can, and again, there's a lot of unknowns, but just because it was brought up, I wanted to see if there was any extra information on that.
The only information I have is that MASC many times will send us a resolution or send the school committee a resolution where they'll adapt that resolution. This is really about the state. Look, our town didn't start COVID. You didn't start COVID, but our Chapter 70 funding, if it will or if it will not be affected, you cannot affect it. We still are teaching kids. We still want to work with kids. We still have neediest population. I think that was what that resolution was saying is give us chapter 70 and also help us with this COVID expense. What we're looking for the town is just support to get through where we are today. And Brian, I can't say enough about the Plymouth County CARES Act money, working with Brian thus far. It has been, what do teachers need to make sure that this happens? What do our kids need to make this to be successful moving forward? And Liz, if you're going to bring them back, what does it look like for us? So I can't say that we've had, and Brian and I are going to go like this at times, but when we walk out of the meeting, we're going to be together and we're going to make it work for the town and for the schools. I think that's the end all be all. But that's really, Dan, the MSAC, they asked them to do, and I think it was really like, look at Governor Desi, you're asking us to put 10 kids in a room.
Oh, yeah.
I got
It's insane.
25 kids that, I'm averaging at 24 kids a classroom, pre-K through 12. So if I'm averaging that, that doubled the size. So that means I'm going to do 6 tiers of buses. That means I'm going to do double sessions. That means I may have a hybrid model. It may mean I'm going to need more special education teachers. It may mean I need more teacher assistants, maybe even going out to the homes and delivering it. I mean, when you start saying all of that, it's starting to add up. And I think that's really where the resolution came in and said, hey, listen, these towns weren't built for this. Schools weren't built for this. They were built for 20 kids in a classroom with a teacher working on things together. And that's where I think that came from.
Mhm.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Great. All right. So I've got some thoughts that I've kind of get swinging around in my head that maybe we can talk a little bit offline, but it might be something that from a budgeting perspective, we may even create a little subcommittee or something we can think about afterwards, but we'll kind of marinate in that a little bit. Are there any other questions from any of the remaining committee members for the superintendent or John? No, I'm seeing shaking heads, so everyone looks good. Excellent, good.
Laura, I just want to say, as we get some firmer numbers, I think it is great that we work together on this. Right now, I think it's a little too early, but as soon as we start getting revenue numbers and getting a better idea of what we actually need to open up the schools, I think it's a great idea. We should definitely be meeting on a regular basis.
Agreed. Good. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you both very much for your time. We appreciate it. Again, John, sorry we had to drag you off. Had we known. But again, anytime you need anything from us, reach out and we'll be in touch shortly to talk next.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you both
Thank
very
you.
much. Everyone else needs
Thank
to
you.
stay on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry, I just unmuted myself.
And always
Good
time
timing.
for Crystal's kids. All right. Okay, moving on. We probably only need a couple more minutes. We want to just have a quick conversation around town meeting. So town meeting's next week, in case nobody knew, just so y'all know.
I haven't actually seen any, on Facebook or anything. I really haven't seen any talk of it.
Yeah, I haven't much either. Brian, do we have any official town Facebook pages that blast out?
Yeah,
don't?
we have many departments with Facebook pages that we could go to them and say, put this on Facebook.
Has,
Yeah.
Please.
has the sign been flashing it in the center? Usually there's a sign, one of the
I don't think,
BPW signs.
I'm not sure. I'm sort of torn between, I only need 50 people at town meeting. Do we really, how many people do we want at town meeting? We're trying to convince them that we just need to pass the budget, that we're taking on non-controversial items and taking them off the schedule so that people don't feel the obligation as usual to come to town meeting. So I'm not sure I want to promote too much, but I also don't want to hide. So let's see if we can get it out on Facebook. Not that Facebook is perfect, but we get it out on Facebook. And it's posted in more than the usual spots because Sue Gilpatrick has done a great job of getting it out beyond the normal posting areas. We put the warrant on the website, but it actually hasn't had much traction there. So I could put the little flashing sign from the DPW at the Common. Dave, what else can you think of?
Well, and again, I agree that we have to get it out there. I have heard no conversation anywhere around town about the upcoming meeting. I do think we have to cover ourselves by putting it on the signs as early as we can do, like, Wednesday morning or something. But we do need to get them out there, over the weekend anyhow. We don't want people coming back saying, hey, we have these signs all over town. Why aren't we using them? Something as important as this, let people make a decision. I think your elderly people are not coming. At least if they find out how many articles we're passing over.
Yeah.
But I do think to be transparent, we have to put those signs up and running.
I'll send
Other
an
than
email
there's
to
really no other places you can put them. A lot of the places we put them aren't open.
And people aren't going
To
out
the
as
public.
much.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll send an email to John Haynes and the fire department and see if we can get them on the those flashing
Right.
signs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So for next Tuesday night, so typically the finance committee is one of the committees that's up on stage. Due to social distancing, that's going to be kind of completely reduced. And I think, Brian, you said this, or you already did it? You did it this week, right?
We've got the plan laid out. I haven't actually gone over to set up the hall yet. But what we're going to need to do is limit it to, I'm throwing the capital budget committee off the stage. I am letting the selectmen stay. I think that might be good for me.
Don't we have an option?
Yeah. And the town clerk, myself, John Clifford will be on the front row. Capital Budget Committee will be in the front row. Laura and Dan will be on the stage representing the Finance Committee. The rest of the Finance Committee will be to the left, spread out every other seat, but in the front. Just because I don't think I can put that many people on stage and still preserve social distancing.
And I think appearances are important for this one.
Despite, an attitude sometimes that's not productive, we do need to wear our masks when we're, in coming and going from there particularly. We're going to do precisely what we did at town meeting, and we're going to check the temperature, and we're going to hand out masks. Fortunately, I don't need to do gloves and pens because we don't have to do anything of that nature. Check-in will be done on the laptops, so touchless, if you will. Nobody has to sign anything. We thought one of the things we might do is use ushers. So we'll take some people and say, okay, could you act as an usher and help us socially distance, use every other row, keep keep 2 seats between people unless they're, cohabitating, and then they can sit together. And then when somebody comes, walks the aisles or is heading towards the microphone, they have to wear a mask. We'll put little wipes at the microphone so they can wipe the microphone. The only place I can see that we, have to make sure that people understand or can see is the main speaker at the front of the room. Moderator has to be seen, so he probably, may not be wearing his mask, but he'll have to be segregated far enough away. I'm going to try to get some extra microphones so that we don't have to share so many microphones. So we'll see how successful I am at getting this social distancing. We have an 800 seat theater. If we get 100, everybody tells me we get trouble. Sort of disappointing that this is my first town meeting and I, don't know what I don't know. But if you get 150 people to the meeting and you have to spread out over an 800 seat theater, I think we can do that. Plus I've reserved the lecture hall as well so that we can simulcast into there. So I think we can actually spread out quite significantly. And at the suggestion of the Board of Selectmen, we have stripped down the warrant to take anything that's controversial off. So we have a consent agenda that moves a whole bunch of articles real fast. And then we have the pass over motion to pass over a whole ton of articles that would be considered controversial. And then today we found 2 more articles that we're going to pass over as well when we get to them. Obviously, they don't have to fund the homeless school. The homeless transportation has not obviously overspent. So that will be coming off the special. And we're not going to be addressing the civil service article that was on the warrant originally, primarily because the governor took the wind out of that sail yesterday. So we don't need to discuss that. We don't need to have that debate. So we're in pretty good shape.
Great.
David, I see you talking, but you're muted.
Does that leave about 10 articles? After you get through taking everything else?
It's still close to 25 articles. So,
Okay.
But again, some of them really aren't going to be, I mean, is anybody really going to object to creating a revolving fund for the library? So,
I am.
yes,
They keep on finding me.
well, they should.
They
but
don't have fines anymore. Come
They
on.
should.
Oh, I'm the only one that's getting fined?
Yeah.
It must come with the job.
All right, so I'm just kind of making a list of kind of a few things that I'm going to send to the committee just in preparation. I'll make sure everybody has a copy of the final warrant. I'll make sure everybody in the committee has a copy of our final vote grid, just so you have for reference. And then I can even make any pertinent notes. Like I can even note the 2 other articles we're going to pass over.
I see that presentation on the meals tax, which was, I thought was very good. I added some, I think you do have to talk about, I don't want to confuse the issue, I admit, but the most obvious question is, if you don't tell them why you need the meals tax, which is OPEB,
Mhm.
then they're not going to understand why you're inventing a new tax.
So my thought process is here is, yes, I think we need to give a little explanation, but my thought process is you should give that explanation, not me.
Okay. I know, I loved your
Right.
presentation. Loved
you.
it.
But
So-
I'm perfectly happy doing a throw over to Brian for a quick
Well,
OPEB.
I put the OPEB right up front. On
Okay.
your presentation, I added the slides of why we need a new tax. So, and then it leads into your explanation. So I can come and be the bad guy and say, Laura, I need $65 million. Where are you going to get it?
Mhm.
And then you could, go into your presentation. I mean, that's fine. But I put 2 slides at the beginning that just explain very quickly why.
Yeah, okay. All right. It's funny when you asked at the beginning before we started the meeting about who was going to make the motion. Part of me very sarcastically was almost going to say, can we ask Michelle to make the motion? And she wanted to know if I threw her name in it anywhere. And I thought we jokingly said, oh yeah, we're calling it the Michelle Ahern Memorial Meals Tax. Because Michelle has been such an advocate for this for so many years. I want to somehow acknowledge that. I just don't know how. I'm not sure everybody would get the humor,
Well, I have to be honest with you, the way you did the presentation, and I know you'll send it out to the rest of the committee, but where you did the zoom in and just circle
Oh,
the
yeah.
island that we live on, that's pretty compelling.
It is. Yeah. Graphics say a lot. And similarly, the other slides with the restaurants, and I will send the presentation out to everybody once we finalize it. Using your examples, whether it's the receipts, Brian, that you talked about, or just saying, I, on my commute to work, stopped at down 106, would stop at Dunkin' Donuts every single day. And then on Friday nights, I would go to Crystal's. And on Saturday nights, I would go to the, Boston Tavern, and, think about who goes to these restaurants on a regular basis. And I think those visuals, people get grabbed by the visual, I think. So not so much by the blah, blah, blah. All right. So just so the rest of the committee members know that, and Brian, we have to talk about where and when and how we're doing this presentation. So I assume it's at the point that right before we make the motion. We're going to
make the motion. Call the article, you make the motion, and then the next thing the moderator should say, and again, I have no experience here, should be, could you explain this, please? You go through the explanation, and then you got to walk a fine line at town meeting. And for those people who've attended town meeting all their life, you need to walk a fine line between over explaining and just simply not explaining.
Yeah.
So you got to sort of gauge the audience and know, you know.
Know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Yeah. I mean, you
So-
go too long an explanation, you're gonna get no new taxes, you know, instead of listening to the fact that we can't put any new taxes onto homeowners that, you know, they've had enough. And we need to find, you know, if I'm having to pay my neighbor's tax in his town, why can't he pay mine in my town?
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
we want to make it against, you know, us and them. If we had a, you know, if we had a rivalry town, all that, you know, we are always up against, we should always say, why should I pay that town's taxes?
Yeah.
So, you know.
Okay. All right. So just so everybody obviously is clear now that we're going to be doing a small presentation on meals tax, hopefully. Well, I don't know, hopefully not. I don't know which one. So I will send that around to everyone, and please, you know, Kevin, especially, you've probably gone through this. Please be brutally honest and give me your thoughts on, you know, too much, too little, or, you know, overdone. I can plow through a presentation pretty fast. You know, I know when to hold them, know when to fold them. I can read the room and say, okay, I might have to slow down, or
Hey, we
look
can lose,
out, I'll be done in 30 seconds.
but you add it up, it's 200, and you know, so it's over $200,000. How many teachers is that?
But we're paying
One.
OPEB for teachers.
Well, it's one business manager and.
Okay,
Sorry,
moving
we're
on, moving on.
Not counting the car and the golf
Um,
cart.
So Monday night, I think everybody saw the email that went out today that Rebecca sent out about the moderator review meeting on Monday at 4:30. Even though we've posted it as a meeting, it's certainly not necessary for everybody to go. It's us literally just going through each motion, deciding who's going to read the motion, does it what it needs for a vote, if there's anything. So it's kind of just the logistics of going through. Everybody's welcome to attend if they want, but I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up that not necessary. Dan, I don't know if you can make it, but in case I get hit by a bus, you should be
Yeah.
prepared.
I'll double check my schedule. I'm pretty sure I can be there.
Okay, or if I have to be in quarantine, you have to be prepared.
That's a better example. Yeah.
A little more realistic, I suppose. We don't have buses in East Bridgewater. All right, so that's the meeting. And then any other questions around the logistics for Tuesday night? Hopefully it goes smooth. So I'm gonna add the meals tax presentation to what I send you guys.
Make sure we have hand sanitizer next to the laptop.
Yeah. Oh, that's, well, I'll ask you.
Sanitizer left, Rebecca?
What was that?
Do we have any?
Oh, hand
hand-
sanitizer?
Yeah.
Yes, we have those bottles, but they're not, you have to pick them up and squirt it in your hand.
I have a couple extra squirty ones. I'll bring one or two squirty ones. I better write that down.
You just spit on your hand and wipe it.
And then go around and shake everyone's hand. Don't forget.
We've got some water guns, so like squirt guns. We'll just squirt gun everybody
Yeah.
with some sanitizer.
Just some bleach
Sounds
and
good
light
to
on
me.
them.
I went to Trader Joe's the other day and they made everybody, they squirt like spray hand sanitizer on everybody's hands as they walked in.
Good for them.
Yeah, that's what I
We
thought.
do have those spray bottles actually, Brian, that Chief Aaron brought around. Those spray bottles that have the
Yeah.
liquid.
Yeah.
Maybe we should use something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll ask you the kind of logistics of me doing the presentation from where, because where I usually sit, I can't see anything.
I don't know because I've never been to town meeting.
Yeah.
So,
We'll look at that Monday.
Okay.
We may have to get down to the floor.
Okay. And Dave, if you get a chance, if you could look at that and send me your comments, any suggestions you
Okay.
have in the presentation, that would be helpful too. Great. Okay, any other questions on town meeting? Awesome. We're near the finish line, literally. Well, I like to say that, but then we're going into chaos. All right. All right, we can move on to approving the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. I should have emailed them again to you. I emailed them to you previously. I think everybody did review them. We didn't get any comments back. So we're reviewing April 7th, April 14th, and April 28th. So if anybody or everybody is ready, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the minutes of 4/7, 4/14, and 4/28 as presented.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Hi,
Aye.
Aye. Excellent, unanimous.
five of us today.
What?
Five of
Yes,
us
ma'am.
right now, right?
Yep, 5 of us. Yep, we're missing 2. As written. Okay. Okay, perfect. And all right, do we have any other topics we need to go over? I think if there's anything paperwork wise that anybody wants a copy of for town meeting, let me know. But I think we should all be good. Like I said, I'm going to send you all kind of the vote grid, the final warrant. The
I don't
copy
have
of
a
the meals.
printer, if you would mind printing me a copy of whatever, like the warrant and,
I could, the warrant
Yeah.
is, for you guys, it's about 60 some odd pages. So I was planning on printing for you. Okay? I know, Kevin, you always print your own, but it's 60 pages. So if you don't want it, if you don't want me to print it, raise your hand, then I won't print you. Okay, I'll have one for everybody then.
okay, thank
Okay.
you.
I scribbled.
Kevin doesn't want,
Kevin raised his hand.
I'll have one for everybody.
I got one the other night.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, no, there's a whole new one. Yep, with motions.
I'll still email it to you. And
Yeah,
that way you
that's
can have
fine,
it to
Joy.
review, but we'll have a hard
Yeah.
copy available on the night of. Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
thank you.
All right, and I'll, you don't need to, Melanie, I'll email you all the other stuff, and if you want anything printed of the other stuff, just let me know and I can print it for
Okay.
you. Okay, perfect, good.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments, sarcastic comments, anything? Nothing?
This is the time.
This would be the time.
We live in
Nothing.
extraordinary times, and due to an abundance of caution.
We will be approaching the new
Unprecedented.
normal shortly.
And everybody
Excellent.
wash their hands, and if you don't feel well, don't come to town meeting.
Stay home.
Got it.
Amen, amen, excellent. All right, well, on that note, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And it was Crystal. Do I have a second?
Kevin?
Thank you. All right, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, meeting is adjourned at 7:30.